Chris here with RaisGarden.com. It is a brisk February morning, 2026 in Missouri. I'm sitting here in a structure inspired by the top 2 customer requests. Over the past 6 years, the top 2 customer requests have been a way to trellis plants and a way to keep critters out of their vegetables. We have designed and are currently testing this trellis system for our raised planters. But before releasing this, we wanted to offer a budget-friendly alternative. But today we will highlight this structure. It uses common pipe, which can be purchased at your local store. This is top rail for chain link fence. It is commonly defined by 1.31 inches, and some places call it 1 3/8 inches. This size is what you will want to use. The nice thing is it comes in bare galvanized or black, so you have choices, and there are several connector options. Your imagination will be the only limiting factor. This particular design uses 3 2x7 planters and 3 2x3.5 planters. You can make them smaller or larger. So this would be a single bed option here, to where we have a 3.5 by 7 footer. We've put the skeleton frame on here. We've actually added pipe across, so you can add more pipe across here to trellis to. There's also options to mount this to a wood bench if you have the wood bench installed. We'll be covering that in future videos, but for now, we'll be covering the critter-proof house. So you can choose whatever size that you want to build using the 2 foot by 7 foot beds and the 2 foot by 3.5 beds. With this option, we have a 7 footer here and 2 7 footers in the back, a 3.5 here, and then 2 and a 3.5 here. We put our doorway right here. But this same option, to build it a little more economically, is we could get rid of these 3.5 foot beds, put another 7 foot bed here, and then we would put our door on the end. Another option to where this could be smaller is just use 1 7 footer here and here, a 3.5 footer here, and then put your door here. So now your grow space would be this big, about half the size, but a lot more economical. So what we'll cover in this video for this critter-proof grow house is, number 1, we're going to pre-assemble the planters. So I'll show you how to put them together the best way before the full assembly. We're going to be building and connecting the assembly, so this is when we're going to actually put it in place and connect everything. We're going to level the planters, or level the assembly. We're going to add soil and mulch. Then we're going to be installing the skeleton pipe frame that you see the mesh connected to. And then finally, we'll attach the wire mesh. So the planters that we're using here come from us at RaisGarden.com. And the fittings come from ChainLinkFittings.com. So check that place out, because they have everything you need all in one place. Now, if you have some wooden beds, this can still apply to you. Just see how we connect everything. And you may need to use some pipe straps to connect them onto your wood. But the pipe and the fittings are really the structure that we're going to be looking at today. So this is the design that we'll be building. I've got it drawn on here, laid out, so I can show you how I'm going to assemble this. So I've got these beds marked that we're going to be building, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I've got them all separated on the board, so you can see we're going to be using 1, 2, 3 of the 7 foot by 2 foot beds, and 1, 2, 3 of the 3.5 by 2 foot beds. The reason I got them separated is not that we're going to be building these beds separate and then putting them together. If you look at the assembly instructions and the video, we're going to be building these beds to where number 1 will encompass part of number 2 and then part of this bed. Number 2 will have the panels and part of this bed. Number 4 will include number 4 but part of this bed, and number 3 will include number 3 and part of this bed. After we get these assembled, we'll take them out. We'll hook number 1 and number 2 together. We'll set number 3 in place, and we'll hook it to number 1 with this panel and this panel. We'll set number 4 in place, and we'll hook it to number 2 with this panel and this panel. So you can see by the overall dimensions, this is going to be 14 foot by 7.5 foot with a 3.5 foot door. And then your interior dimensions will be 42 inches or 3.5 foot by 120 inches, which is 10 foot. So from the diagram we looked at, we will build bed number 1. And so I've went ahead and installed a bed corner on the panel for our 2 foot side. I'll lay it up here out of the way. And then we're going to install 2 corners on this end. And again, this will be just like the instructions, connecting a bed perpendicularly, if you want to look that up. And we have a video on it also. The main reason I'm showing how to do this is since we're using a 2 foot panel, we will not be able to use existing holes and we'll have to drill some. So after I get my corner pieces on there, I'm going to slide this over to add some weight. And then I'll slide this back until my holes line up. And then I'll install my bolts. I've got my 4 bolts in. So these 2 bed corners are held together with these 2 panels. But over here, we're not bolted to the bed. And normally if we were running a long panel, 3.5 foot, we have holes down here for that, but we're going to have to add our own holes so we can bolt through here. You'll also notice that there's a gap here, and each bed is sent with 2 of these shims, and I'll show you how they work. You can also look in the instruction manual and the video. But we're going to drill a hole through there to accept a bolt. So this is that slot that we're going to drill a hole through into the panel below. Now the screws we use are 1/4 inch. I've got slightly bigger than a 1/4 inch drill bit in here. And as you drill, as you start to go through the galvanized panel, you'll want to reduce your pressure as you're drilling or it'll grab. But let's see what I can do here. So after your hole's drilled, we want to put our bolt through this way, but first we also want to add our shim. We'll stick our shim all the way in there, and we'll put our nut on from the back side. We'll do the same thing with the other side. After we're done, we'll tighten those up and we'll move on to the next step. So this is finished planter number 1 from the diagram. So this is going to go off to those other 2 panels that we showed on the diagram. And then this end will go off to bed number 2. And so I've incorporated part of the center bed that's going to connect bed 3 and 1, and then we've put a center connection in here, which is right here, that's going to connect bed 1 and 2. So we have a partial of bed 2 on here now. And those can both be seen in the instruction manual. This one is under extending planters. And this part here is under connecting planters perpendicularly. Of course, on this one, since it's a short panel, we had to drill our own holes. This is our blank canvas. We're going to set the beds up that we pre-assembled to build this deer fencing project. So let's get started. So looking at our diagram, we've got our beds pre-assembled. Now you only see 4 beds out here, but we've used components off the other 2 beds that are already pre-connected. And so they'll get connected with the panels. And so you can see this one will be brought up a little closer. Those will get connected. These will get bolted on, and this one brought up closer and bolted to it. And then here's our doorway. So I'll get all these bolted up and we'll come back and take a look at it. We have it all bolted together, it's solid. The next step is to level it or make it flat, and I'll explain that, what I mean. But you can kind of see how it's going to work. We're going to have a door here. We'll have the fencing on the exterior. So you can walk in here, and this will be your interior space that you can work the inside of the garden from. So let's take a look at level and flat. So let's talk about flat and level. They're 2 different things. This setup here, I would like it to be level, but I need it to be flat. And so to make it level, let's say that this gravel area was running downhill. That may bring the end of the garden beds up here, several inches. So this table is level with the level we have on it. It's also flat. It has a nice flat surface. So let's say that I take these pavers and I put the pavers under the feet on this side. This table is no longer level, but it's still flat. So I want the beds, the bottom of the beds, to be lined up and flat. That way everything sits nicely. We're not putting the bed in a bind when we sit on it. And so I'm going to go through here and make it flat. And at the same time, I may raise it up a little bit on one end if it needs to be level. And we'll see how it turns out. But you can see here, we're not even touching here. When you connect these beds together, they're very rigid. And something I didn't talk about earlier in the video, when you're connecting all these together, you may have to lift this bed up and put a shim under it to get it bolted down here, because it's trying to sit flat on the gravel, which isn't flat. We've put all the pavers under the beds, so it's pretty flat and it's fairly level. The gravel's running downhill this way, so you can see when we got over here, we're about 1.5 inches higher than the gravel. I wanted to keep this fairly level. But what you'll also notice is now we have a gap under the bed. And when we fill this with our soil mix, that soil can come out right here. And just for looks, I would rather take the gravel that's inside the bed and move it and pile it up on the inside corner. That way when we do fill it with soil, we'll see just nice white gravel out here on the edge. I'm going to grab a shovel and get in here and start moving gravel to the inside corner, get our gaps all filled in, put several inches in there so the soil doesn't make it through. And then we'll get it filled with soil. And before you start putting any gravel in or any soil, make sure you put your soil blockers in. This is going to stop any soil from coming out. And then after you get those in, you're going to take and you're going to scoop the gravel on the inside edge. That's going to give us a nice clean look on the outside. We are about to fill the beds with this soil mix that we bought from Lowe's. This is a compressed, dry soil mix. Comes in this brick, weighs about 40 pounds, costs $35 for 6 cubic foot, which comes out to about $5.83 per cubic foot. That's a pretty decent price. There's no fertilizer in here, so we'll add our own fertilize. What I like about this soil mix is it will hold about 1 gallon of water per cubic foot versus topsoil. If you have a topsoil and a compost mix, you're looking at about half that. So 1 gallon per cubic foot, this will hold. Let's get the beds filled. It's a new day. It started raining on us, so we don't have the beds filled with soil, but I've got all my pipes cut, and I opted to go with the black. There's 2 ways you can do this. I cut these to 7 foot. That's what my height's going to be. So you can either slide these directly in the corner and then use self-tapping screws at these 4 holes to get it pulled to the corner and to get it stable. But what I've opted to do, and I've tested out, I've 3D printed some shims, and so I'll show you how I do that. So here are these shims. They'll lay on here. You'll put a self-tapping screw in, and then they'll press up against the inside of the soil blocker to keep the piece of pipe pinned against the bed corner. So the first one you can put on there in any orientation, and then you'll want to slide it down. And then this will help you get your next one lined up. So I'm going to put the next one in position. And push it. Just get it pushed down to where it starts. And I'm going to pull the pipe up a little bit to reveal my hole. So now this one is lined up with the bottom one. I can take my self-tapping screw get it in, lower that in the hole, and now it's stable. So now I'm going to use a washer. And now I've pinned this in there to where it can't lift up, and it's stable because of the shims. If I wasn't using the shims, which you don't have to, I would have used 4 self-tapping screws and 4 washers, 2 on the bottom and 2 on the top. I've got all the poles put in. They're 7 foot tall. The next step is I want to connect all the poles with more pipe up top. And so to do that, I've pre-assembled some of our connectors, and I'll show you how I did that. To start, we're going to be using 2 different types of connectors, and remember, these are all for the 1 3/8 or 1.31 tubing, as some places call it. And this will be also known as like a top rail for chain link fence. So the 90 degree is going to allow us to clamp on the 1.31 inch tubing, go over that, and come off with more of the same size tubing. And then this one allows us to connect on and then go straight off in the same direction as we're going to be going over the door and back there. So I'll show you how to measure your pipe for these and give you some pointers on that. Now, looking at these connectors, we can see that a piece of pipe will not make it all the way to the other side of the tubing because of this bolt. So when we take our measurement for here, I want to stick the tape measure in against the bolt, and then I want to measure to the edge of the other bolt, which is about 37.5 inches. And then I want to subtract a 1/2 inch from either side. We don't need the pipe necessarily against the bolt, and the more clearance we can leave, the easier it's going to be for us when we install it. So an easier way of doing this, I've put my bolts in the connectors, but I've left them loose. And so I've slid them down over the pipe and left them in position at the bottom. So now I can take my measurements for my pipe from there, from here, all the way around. I can take my measurements. I can cut my pipe, and then I can raise everything up and get it installed. So instead of putting your connectors up top, measuring, trying to do all your install up there, you can start at the bottom with your connectors, take your measurements, pre-cut all your pipe, and then you can get on a ladder if you need to for the install. I've got all my pipe cut. So this first one, I've not actually done what we're about to do, so we'll kind of figure this out as we go. But Caden, my son's going to help me, so I'm going to slide this end in here, rotate this out. So now the pipe's in there. Now we need to lift it up. And I'm going to bring it just below the very top because these will get caps put on them. And I'm going to tighten this one up first. And then I'll go around to his side. And I've got it now, bud. Okay. And I'll tighten that up. And so this is just kind of temporarily held in place right now. Now I'll put the next pipe up and we'll see how we're going to do that. So this is our next pipe. So this side has not been tightened yet, so I can insert the pipe in here. Grab my bottom one, lift it up, and then we'll kind of swivel it out and in. Lift this up. And tighten it up. Just like last time, slide it in. Grab your bottom one. Rotate this one slightly to get the pipe inserted. Get it in position. And tighten it. We're not going to tighten these real tight yet. We'll go back through and make sure they're in position and then get them all tight. And I'll keep working my way down. That worked out really well, leaving the one side open. Slip your pipe in, move this up, tighten this side down, which will hold this in place, and it leaves the other side open. But for now, I'm going to go around and I'm going to tighten the other nuts up that needed tightened up, and I may make a few adjustments too. All right, our last piece, I thought we'd have to put this in a little differently, but you may get in the position to where you need to put a self-tapping screw in here to hold it on to take this back piece off, but I tried it out and it looks like it's going to work fine. So I'm going to slide this in. And get it in the other side there. And then get it even. That looks good. So we finished filling the beds with the soil, and we've put our mulch on. I went ahead and put our wood bench on the inside for seating, and we're also going to use the wood bench to mount these floor flanges to. So we have our structure built. If you consider you're going to wrap this with some sort of netting, and you're also going to put netting on the top because creatures will crawl, you know, into the top. And so we need to bring some tubing across here to support that. And I'm also wanting to bring some tubing across to act as trellises. And so this is just where you get creative and use your imagination about where you want to put this stuff. So I've put a few floor flanges on here. And once we get this mounted up, I'll kind of show you what I had in mind. And you may come up with a different idea, but there's plenty of fittings to choose from. So it's kind of like an erector set, depending on how you want to design it. I like to use a jigsaw to cut this. Make sure you have a metal cutting blade in there. And the best advice I can give using a jigsaw is just be nice and slow with it and kind of let the saw cut. Don't be too aggressive or the saw may jump a bit. Also make sure your blade is long enough that it's making it through, or as you cut through it's going to hit the inside of the pipe and want to jump around. You can cut this with a hacksaw. Other saws, just kind of depends on what you have, but I have a jigsaw, so that's what we're going to use. All the cuts we make, we're cutting this small end off. All the fittings we have are designed for this bigger diameter here. This small diameter is designed to slide in the next piece of tubing and to be connected with a screw to hold it in place. So we'll save all these because we'll end up using them, because you can slide this together, put a screw in, and then make a cut down here to have the length you need. We finished putting all the pipe up that we're going to put up. We got the door finished. The only thing I like is figuring out what I want to do for a door latch, because I've got this space closer than what a latch allows, what a store-bought latch would allow. So I'll probably make something for here. But the door works really smooth. It was fairly simple to make. We use these 90-degree fittings for the four corners of the door. Your pipe will slide in each end, and you'll put a carriage bolt in and tighten on the other side. And then on this brace, we screw these on the end of the pipe, and then these will clamp over the tubing and a bolt will go through all of it to hold it in place. So the door, after I got it built, then I put the brace in, and I kind of took the sag out with the brace, and now the door is really secure. These hinges are just normal chain link fence hinges made for the 1 3/8 pipe, or 1.31 inch pipe. I've got one down here and one up here. All we need is two on here. It's super strong. The idea with these two poles is we're going to put a netting over this. It'll actually be a welded wire with black PVC coated. And so I wanted bars going across this way to hold the wire on top. But I also wanted to run a trellis this way. And I didn't want to run a trellis the full length of 14 foot because it could sag. And so I put two poles, I equally spaced them, and I used just a floor flange. I mounted that, put the pipe in, and run it up and made my connections up here. The floor flange by itself is not good enough to hold the pipe straight. So if I were to put the pipe in the floor flange and put a self-tapping screw in, the pipe can still move up top. So if you are planning on doing some elaborate design with floor flanges, then you would need to put some sort of bracing or a gusset, as I would call it, similar to what we did on the door to stabilize your uprights. So starting here, I've attached pipe running this way, all the way down here, and this is going to be all for trellising. This direction and back to here. So the majority of the bed will be able to string up and put trellising on. So we're wrapping this with the PVC coated welded wire. I didn't really know how this would go. But it's not been too bad. You'll need at least 2 people. 3 is preferable with bungee straps, possibly. But we're just leaving this hang down about 1 inch on the metal bed sides because we're eventually going to drill holes and put bolts with washers through here to hold that on there. I've only got this attached on the top for now as we're going around. So you can see it's a little wavy right now. And as we're going, you have to keep this supported up. We have it supported in a chair right now and kind of have it bungeed in place. And I will pull on this to take slack out. And then I'll further take slack out once we get all the bolts in by pulling this around the corner. So I just wanted to show you kind of how it's going. You know, we have extra up top, which I may just fold over, and we're going to put wire over the top too. But you can see how the black looks, especially when it gets straightened out. It's pretty pleasing to the eye. It's easy to see through. So we'll continue on. We're nearly done with the project now. We've got the outside covered, and I ran out of this netting, but we had this 1x1, and this is a little heavier gauge. This is about 16 gauge wire. This is about 20 or 22 gauge wire. This stuff is easy for the sides, which I would recommend using something like this, but you can still get the smaller gauge in smaller holes, so it really depends on what you're wanting to keep out of your garden. We're going to put this on top, and the nice thing about this heavier gauge on top, I can trellis plants from this directly. So I already have spots to trellis from, but this really opens up quite a bit. If I were to put this stuff on top, I wouldn't want to hang a rope from this and trellis up. It would bend the wire. So I'm not for sure how we're going to get this up there yet, but we've got our 2 rolls cut. So if I measured correctly, it ought to be perfect. We've got the top put on. I don't know if you can see from this angle, but we'll get some more shots here shortly. I did decide that I don't like these things. I don't like the looks of them. I don't like trying to bend them around and stuff. So we're taking them off, and I've attached the whole top with nylon UV resistant wire ties, or some people call them zip ties. Just make sure you get ones that'll go over at least 1.5 inches. These will make a 2-inch diameter here. So I'm gonna take all these off the door. I'm gonna replace them with the black ones, and then this will help me stretch it a little bit, stretch the wire. I'll go through and take all these off, replace them. And now I'm ready to go through and kind of tension the wire, get it in its final position. We have completed putting the netting on top. We've secured all the netting with the zip ties. Used approximately 180 zip ties. You can see the netting on top is 1x1 square. The netting on the sides is about 1.5 inches by 2.5 inches. It's pretty lightweight. So these, if you remember, we added these for the trellises so we could hang on these posts. But since we put this heavier gauge netting up here and we have a support running about in the center of the bed all the way around, I'm going to hang from the netting also. So anywhere that I want a string coming down, I can hang from the netting. I think it turned out pretty nice. The reason we used the black netting was so you could see through it. It's not harsh on the eye, it doesn't reflect light. You put a kiddo in here and shut the door, you can keep an eye on them. The total grow area we have in here is 63 square foot. But we'll be growing a lot of stuff vertically. So with the tomatoes, we'll have peppers growing vertically. We'll have some hybrid bell peppers that are indeterminate. That'll be growing up just like tomatoes, really cool. And so underneath here, we'll be able to plant stuff also. And then during the hottest part of the summer, we'll put shade cloth over this to kind of keep it cool and maybe extend the growing season out for our lettuce a little bit. So this particular setup, we put the posts in the corners of the bed. You can do this if you build wooden beds. You could attach them to the outside with pipe clamps. So this material would work the same way as what you see here. The next video, we're going to show how to take just a single bed and do the same thing with it, and also how to add a removable critter-proof netting on it. So be sure to check that one out. But for now, we are done. I'm ready to go in and have a coffee. Thanks for watching.